This is a TalkStation original podcast.
On this episode of the Paperboys podcast, Zach and I talked to Croatan coaches George Benson and John Bradley about their state championship win over Lake Norman Charter. The Cougars beat Lake Norman Charter 13-12 in the 1A, 2A, 3A state title to give the county its first boys lacrosse team championship ever. Hello and welcome to the Paperboys podcast. I'm JJ Smith.
And I'm Zach Nally.
We're reporters with the Carteret County News-Times. We're joined today by the coaches of the state championship boys lacrosse team from Croatan, head coach George Benson, and assistant coach John Bradley. Gentlemen, thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. It's been like about a week-ish. How do we feel? How's the last week been?
Oh, has it been a week?
Almost.
It's been it's been a blur. I mean, it was a blur starting from the first face-off all the way to today, and obviously a lot of fun activities, things that really happy for the boys to celebrate with. You know, everything from the getting escorted by the fire engine back the next morning as we came back from Durham to seeing the going in front of the school board and being recognized, and I think the county commissioners are going to recognize the boys here on the 16th and Big Rock, and I mean all that kind of I guess for the professional teams that go to the White House, like this is our little local, getting to parade around and feel really special, and I love that for the boys.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I mean, it's well deserved by the boys.
How about you, John?
Oh yeah, definitely. Feet have not touched the ground yet. Still on cloud nine. And I think it actually starts a little bit before that. I mean, you got to remember, we won the regional final against First Flight last Wednesday. Yeah. 48 hours later, we're in the state championship. In that, so it's been a full week, and then a weekend. The reception we got after we won, coming home, the watch party for the coaches and family at Shark's Den was incredible. And then I had my 50th birthday was yesterday, so I kept telling everybody, best birthday ever, state champs, So yeah, it's just been absolutely tremendous.
What were the notifications on the phone? Did you have a number? Was it big after Friday night?
I had 110 text messages that came through.
How about you, John? What was your number?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think I had like 85.
Nice. Those are good numbers.
Alumni from all over, from the youth program. That's awesome. Former players. Coaches out of state, some of the coaches that I've worked with the national program that I work with, all watching the game from Maryland and Baltimore out to I got one text from a guy in California and said it was just awesome.
That's funny because the video I posted on Facebook after the regional final, where did you say the country was?
Yeah, so you're able to go into Facebook and see where people are watching that video from. There was like Barbados, there was Kentucky, there was, and I imagine these are your players' families or your families yourselves,
right,
and it's just fun to see there's 20 some odd different states involved in a few different countries, and clearly something like this it gets the attention.
It was kind of popular in Kentucky, I felt like.
Yeah, there was like a
20 or something.
One of your players must be from there, or
is that Nathan Bradley?
Is that family? There you go.
That's the cowboy, if you remember. Yeah,
a couple people out there watching.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, John, George, after the regional final and the state final, was talking about how probably none of this happens without John Bradley starting the Tomahawks, and you can tell me what year that was. Tell me about how starting that leads to this.
Well, so yeah, we started the Carteret Youth Lacrosse Tomahawks Lacrosse October of 2012.
Okay,
and we kind of joke like state championships were born at Western Park or. Because that's where a lot of the boys on the team, either with Carteret or with Onslow Tribes, grew up playing. So that's been tremendous. And it wasn't all me. I mean, I was the catalyst, but there's some tremendous folks that I'd love to give some recognition to. Ken Bird was right there. Danny O'Connell, rest his soul, was the first Carteret youth lacrosse coach. Amy Quinto helped us start Croatan lacrosse. It was George, Amy, and myself who were in the room with Dave Paletti and Dave Perry.
Joe Paletti,
Joe Paletti and Dave Perry in there to start the program. So, it's just been tremendous, and that was some of the folks that reached out to see how far the program has gone and to have a state championship here in Carteret County. It's just been amazing.
And that 12-year, were these seniors on beginning then?
So actually, it's funny. We talk about Cougar Cubs. We ran a clinic with both of our sons, Andy and Nathan, and George and myself. We Cougar Cubs, and Graham Myers was in
Graham
there.
was there. Drew.
Wow.
Yeah, we had a bunch of these guys. They were just bobbleheads, as we call them.
Absolutely.
Well, it's so funny, the timing of the state championship, because our colleague, Macy O'Donnell, just wrote a column about how we're kind of not setting our Carteret County kids up for success because they show up to high school and they're so far behind because they haven't had a good middle school, because the middle schools here just play each other. They don't go into Onslow County. They don't go into Craven County. And then we don't have a lot of Pop Warner here. We don't have a lot of travel. And he was like, man, you got to have this. And boom, here's the evidence that it's got to happen. You got to have the youth. If you want to compete at the state level in Carteret County, it's got to start when you're 5 and 6 and 7, not 13, 14, 15.
Well, and a youth program willing to go and play good talent, you know.
Right.
And it was the same way with even your regular season schedule. I know at the beginning of the year, part of the question was, you know, we may not have a better record than we did last year, but we're going to be well tested.
Yeah.
So that's
Like
a
you
huge
probably
part of the
could have gone
formula.
undefeated this year if you wanted to, right?
Yeah, if we want to. Yeah,
sure.
I was just kind of desiring a couple losses. That's all.
Right. But I mean, your schedule could have looked much different.
Yeah, it very much could have. You know, and it's important to note too. I mean, I always turn to John. We've been best friends for a long time, and this has been like a labor of love. But a lot of some of the boys, even though they're going to the clinics back then, but Bobby DeGeorge, Tom Williams, which are also coaches with us. We're running Onslow Youth Lacrosse, and several of the players played Onslow as well, and then their parents retire, and they're going to Croatan, and so I mean both of those programs, Onslow and then what John did at Carteret and starting it up, huge impact on our program, eventually.
Well, and it's funny you mentioned the way that having this youth program set up has impacted it, but it also didn't happen overnight. It took a long time. It took, where we at, year 13 or something since you guys have started.
Absolutely.
So it's not something that you can just kind of flip a switch and say, well, now we're going to create this pipeline to high school. But I mean,
and 2 years from now we'll have a state title.
Sure. No, this is a long. Even when you guys made that presentation back then, the joke is that Perry and Paletti weren't expecting much, and then you guys had come in and said, we've talked to Boguetown Elementary, we're going to use their field, we've got some funds set aside, we don't need to siphon funds away from the Boosters Club, we're ready. So, but even then, I mean, the time it takes to have it come to fruition like this, it's not easy.
Well, you hate to say it because it doesn't shine a very positive light on the county, but the way this has happened, it's like you got to do it on your own. If you're depending on the county, it might not happen.
Well,
you all came in and said, we're going to pay our own stuff, and we're going to use this field, and you all had everything on your own, right?
Yeah, and it's funny. I was, we were just up coaching for the Bull City All-Star game last night, which was a lot of fun. But I was talking with, to be nameless, but I was talking with a program, and they said, we wanted a JV, but we couldn't because, they wouldn't fund it. And I was thinking, geez, it's a different mindset where we are. We said we need a JV program, and we realized, well, we're going to find a way to do this.
Right.
Not that the school isn't helpful, but the school just recognizes.
There's
and
only
that's
so much
kind of how
money to
we
go
are,
around.
is that programs, you kind of find a way yourself to make things happen. And, it's not like we're in the biggest county in America or anything like that down here. So,
but it creates this community of stakeholders as well, where when you get the community involved and you get the parents involved in helping to fund it, they care more about the work that goes into it, and the results clearly show that makes a difference.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's like a vested interest.
Right.
And actually, I mean, the parents, our community, we say it all the time, but our community is really, really special. And when we're not on the field, we're usually like going to dinner with somebody that's a parent of a kid and this kind of thing. I mean, we're always together. So,
and I think that's one thing that just can't be overstated. I mean, it was Onslow Tribe that gave Carteret their first. When I was trying to start the program, I reached out to a retired Marine who was running Onslow at the time, a guy named Mike Edwards, and he gave me the first lacrosse sticks to run our first clinic up here in Carteret County, and so George coined the phrase. What was it? Two tribes, two clubs, one tribe type thing. And so, while the county itself necessarily didn't start the program, this community came together and helped us start the program and continue to grow it, and then fund it and resource it and really get behind it, which was really amazing about how special this community is. And so it was definitely a community effort getting to this point, which is really awesome.
You think of like just how strange life is and how things can just change so quickly or be different. Sliding door situations that, if John Bradley's son, Nathan Bradley, who's one of the all-time Croatan greats, if he's a big basketball player, maybe there's no lacrosse here right now.
well, no, you're right. I mean, when you came here, Nathan had an interest in it, but they didn't have that program here.
And that's why you basically got it started, right?
Yeah,
absolutely. Give him an opportunity,
Yeah, it was, so Dr. Art Close, who up at Carteret General, he had Lookout Lacrosse, and then that had folded. And so I was actually in Rhode Island at grad school, moving here, trying to find lacrosse for Nathan, and it wasn't here. It had folded. So when I got here, that first year, we were coaching football together, and I got deployed, and so I was sitting in the East Africa, in the Horn of Africa, thinking how hard would it be to start one lacrosse team? And so when I came back, all the football players, I said, "Hey, you're going to play lacrosse in the spring," and they were like, "What's that?" And I was like, "Hey, trust me, you get it's like football, but you get sticks and you get to hit kids, and And so they were like, "Sure, we'll play." But after that, it took off, and it was really just. So Nathan could play lacrosse and Andy could play lacrosse.
Well, in that first year, you had 4 boys teams, 2 girls teams. So clearly there was an interest there.
Right. Well, that's just it. So as soon as I started talking about, hey, I was starting a lacrosse team, like all these closet lacrosse fans started popping up and like, yeah, I'll coach. My kid wants to play. And that's how we found Amy Quinto. It's how Ken Bird came on. I found some Marines that had played, and it all kind of organically grew from there. We were doing booths out at the White Oak Fall Festival, showing kids what a lacrosse stick was. Yeah, absolutely. And it kind of grew into, like you said, the 4 boys teams and the 2 girls teams, and then I had to get George away from baseball to come across. He was committed to baseball that first year, but then our boys were aging out, and we were like, well, they need to play in high school.
Yeah.
So that's where we
it was fun. Travel, and then the Shore Raiders, the travel team, and where we got in trouble with the middle school, and John had a penchant for building the scariest looking uniforms you could build. So it was like a sword on the back with a skull, and
it was meant to be pirate themed. It was Pirates of the Caribbean with the lacrosse stick. And
so I was on base. I got a call at work, and I had to come up, and there's the whole lacrosse team wearing these terrifying looking jerseys.
Biker gang looking.
Well, the principal was like, they look like a gang, and I'm like, well, I don't know if that's a compliment or not.
Thanks, John, for mentioning Art Close. Shout out to Art Close. He played at the original lacrosse season.
Yeah, I didn't know that, actually.
Right? Yeah.
That's interesting.
And same as John, I think it was because of his son. I think he wanted to give his son a chance to play lacrosse.
Yeah.
And that was, that's probably, I don't know, 8, 9, 10, something like that.
Yeah,
maybe?
2007 actually.
Okay,
2007.
Wow.
I was like, Cooper Close was my grade. That would have been for him.
Almost 20 years ago now.
Well, and it's hard if you're listening. You don't understand that lacrosse has been extremely popular for decades in a lot of other states.
Yeah, Northeast.
Yeah. And so the fact that it wasn't here as strong as it was, for people moving into the area who already had an interest in it.
It's like, what the heck?
Yeah. Why don't you already have this huge culture of different club programs and travel teams and tiers of talent? And maybe that's where it is now.
Yeah, and it's been a blessing and a curse that it's such a dense military area, Marine Corps area, because you have folks that come from, like, my whole family's from Baltimore area, and which is a hotbed, and then you have a lot of families that might come from like New York or Pennsylvania, things like that, or guys that grew up playing it that are military that PCS in, but 3 years later they're gone, and
sure.
So it's a blessing and a curse because you're going to lose some of that experience and so forth. But it's also a blessing, and hopefully, we were talking, hopefully people PCSing in that are coming from somewhere else that they play lacrosse and so forth see that we've had some success, and like, well, it seems like that might be a good fit for so put our kid over there at Croatan or something.
Yeah, if any retired Marines are looking to relocate somewhere, if they got
listening,
if they got like a Division I prospect,
Right.
John and George says bring it on.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, we're talking a lot about the Marine Corps. I don't think we've mentioned so far. Both George and John are retired Marines, both lieutenant colonels, and Zach mentioned about how you go into then Principal Joe Paletti and then AD David Perry. And my favorite thing about that story was David telling me, Joe had their story and you guys had your story.
Yeah.
They were very different stories because David said he looked at Joe before he walked in and said, "We're saying no to this, right?" Joe said, 100%.
This ain't happening. Yeah.
And then here come two lieutenant colonels with their 30-page PowerPoint and just blowing away. They're like, "Okay, we can't say no. We have to say yes." But George, you were mentioning after the state title game that about 90% of the kids on this team are Marine sons.
Yeah, I mean, we were doing the math the other day. I forget, it's just over maybe a handful, but most of them have either retired Marines, their kids of retired Marines or active Marines. I mean, shucks, James Conway is the grandson of a former commandant of the Marine Corps.
Holy cow.
And who I served with when he was the division commander out in 1st Marine Division and then 1st Marine Expeditionary Force when General Mattis worked for him, future Secretary of Defense.
Wow.
I mean, and so his grandson, both of his grandsons, played for us.
Will and
James.
James.
Will was a freshman. So,
Do you think that approach, not just from the kids that have been on the roster, but the coaches that are involved as well, that sort of in the presentation you mentioned, bringing a military precision approach to that, do you think that's helped pave the way for how the development of the culture of lacrosse at Croatan has gone?
I think there's a natural understanding of accountability.
Sure.
And there's a natural understanding of teamwork and cohesion and the importance of that tradition. I think that's a big part of it. These boys, I know my sons grew up understanding that the Marine Corps is full of really strong traditions and legacy, and so I think that carries over. At least we wanted it to carry over. But I think the boys already bring in kind of an openness to that because that's what they experienced growing up. Yeah. So.
Well, I love that you bring up that word tradition real quick because Croatan's only been offering sports now for 26 years, 25 years, something like that. It's very difficult to create tradition out of something that's not been around for very long. And I think I did a column a few years ago that, what's happening right now, what's happening the last few years, Croatan's had a lot of success with the Wells Fargo program, and this is the tradition that's being built. And so hopefully this has been the foundation for more to come in the next 25 years.
Yeah.
I don't know how many student athlete the weeks I do from Croatan that they're a military kid. I mean, it's like feels like 80%, 90% of the time they're. Yeah. I'm like, "Are you from here?" They're like, "No, I've lived in California. Georgia, the new Japan. It's always
sure,
the
wherever.
same.
Yeah.
5,
Germany,
whatever. I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I'm like, "God, is there anybody that goes to Croatan that's not the
I think
not a military kid?"
I think it works to our advantage. We travel to places where they just think it's a bunch of beach kids down here. And while they are beach kids, very much, they're also, there's a strong tradition of, the Marine Corps running through our team. So that culture bleeds through too. And so don't underestimate us.
Like you said, you could lose it though. You could have a couple kids be gone at the end of the year and not come back.
Unfortunate thing.
Yeah.
Or it could be like, and you all could speak to this better than me not knowing, but I guess I would imagine some military kids are like preachers' kids. They go the other way.
Sure.
Right.
Might be
They're hard to discipline.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, we have those too. I mean, listen, don't think Marines are hard for that. I mean, there's also the other side,
Well, but it must work out pretty well because, George, you mentioned the last couple of games after the games that, just the off the field, these kids, just the team. What's the team GPA?
Yeah, 3.9.
3.9.
Wow.
And that's how many kids on the team?
39.
Wow. That's a lot of kids.
Yeah. Yeah, we always. I tell everybody about these boys. I always tell them, like, hey, these guys are tremendous humans. They're even better human beings than they are lacrosse players, and they're really good lacrosse players. So if that tells you anything about this group of boys, is they're just tremendous character leaders, resilient and just tough kids. And I think a lot of that, not to make us head any bigger over here, but
the 100th win, the 100th career win.
Right, exactly. I attribute that tremendously to the culture that George has built with the program. I mean, I've only been coaching as the the JV coach and the assistant now for, I guess, 3 years. I was working with the youth program for a while between Nathan and then Caden coming up, but it's just tremendous the culture that they have over there and the accountability amongst the boys and the captains. And that's a lot of makes it's a pleasure to be a part of. We don't there's no yelling from the coaches. I mean, they keep each other focused and they keep each other accountable, which is really, really something to be said.
Well, and you bring up the kids and how special it is to watch them grow up and develop. And that first year that you started the program with Croatan, it went 4-11. And then the next 2 years, they went 11-7. They won a state playoff game each of those years. The fourth year, those seniors, they do pretty good, 9-5. They get to I think it's
fourth.
Fourth round, something like that.
Yeah.
But we talked about it before this spring began. I did not say it was the most interesting sports story for this year
of our predictions,
and I want to apologize for that.
I've been waiting for this moment all year.
Yes. Here's what makes this so special is that you watch a group of freshmen come in and they have ambition, they have discipline, they have talent, and they get a little bit better each year. You call them bobbleheads. They come in, they're freshmen, they're little. Sophomores, they get a little bit bigger, they get a little bit better. Juniors, early exit, they're disappointed, they come back motivated. And the senior year, you can't ask for a better next step than to have them win a state championship. How special was that to watch, particularly this senior group, sort of come full circle with that?
Yeah, amazing. John and I talk about it all the time, and and Bobby and Tom and Troy Myers, Graham's dad. We hang out quite a bit, but this last week especially. We've been, just last night coming back, we rented a little bus to take everybody up there. Coming back, it was just, it was nice to just be a close group, and everybody was showing pictures from 4 years ago, from 8 years ago, and everybody's just sharing things, and, the tears start kicking in, and, I mean, it was a great trip back, but it's been really special just to watch them grow, not just as lacrosse players, which has been really impressive, but again, and I know I feel like it's becoming a tired comment, but just watching them off the field too become young men, it's special.
Well, because of the way the lacrosse schedule works too, graduation's a week after the state championship, so it's like, I mean, thank you for all you've done and goodbye. This is it. They're moving on to the next stage, so it really is. I'm sure as coaches, very tough to watch it come to an end. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, that was one of in the locker room. Beforehand, I asked him, like, hey, what are you going to be? What do you want to be? And Mache, of course, is surgeon. I said, well, I could have predicted that.
Of course.
But it's like surgeon, businessman. And
Graham's going to be a dentist or whatever.
Yes, aviator and all this. And I just said, you're all going to be really successful at all those things because of who you are and what you've proven. And but today, like, one last time. And boy, were they lacrosse players. It was nice.
Yeah, they were. Absolutely.
And we talked a lot about all these things, and I don't want to discredit any of it. I don't want to discredit John Bradley starting the foundation with youth group and the coaching of George Benson and the character of these kids. But, we've been doing this long enough, Zach and I, that you just, every once in a while, you have these talent cycles come through that all these kids just happen to be the same age, and they all had to be this good. And this group might be once in a generation, right? I mean, it's unbelievable, the level, not just top-end talent, like Graham Myers and Mache, who are all-American type, all-state type, but then the third and fourth and fifth and sixth and seventh and eighth guys that they were all together. It's kind of incredible.
Yeah, and yet, I will tell you, if this 25 class didn't exist, we'd be having the same conversation about this 28 class that's freshman.
Wow.
Don't sleep on it.
Well, you know what to look for, and you see that in this next class?
And we absolutely have that in the 28 class, and we've got, that was one of the great, the things that was probably not very well noticed by other teams and so forth. And I'm sure a lot are looking at our roster. Why I'm going to get a call for booking games next year because they're going to smell blood in the water. With
15, they think the roster's going to be decimated.
Yeah,
right?
15 seniors graduating, and we naturally we won't be quite as strong as this year. But what people haven't probably noticed is that I've got some very tricky freshmen that are super talented, and I've got some sophomore leaders, and then Dane and Brian. Dane on the offensive end and Brian on the defensive end are back next year. So we actually are going to, and depending on how they reclass 5, I think it looks from what I'm hearing that they're going to group 1 to 5A for lacrosse as one single state championship. So
great.
if they do that, it doesn't change much. It's kind of like the 3 to 1A.
Gotcha.
And so you got Orange, you got First Flight, Seaforth seems to be creeping up.
Because Croatan would be 5.
Yeah,
right at the top end of that.
and so we'll see where that goes. But I think if it's kind of that same look, we're still up there in the East, looking pretty good, I think. And these guys are, what a great benefit all season to have that senior class and this freshman class, and they gelled really, really well. And John working those guys, getting them reps, that was the tough thing, is we've got these really talented ball players, but they're not going to get reps on the field because we've got this 25 class kind of standing in the way. Turns out we were able to, the job of the 25 class in some games was, hey, make this first quarter put a nail in the coffin so we can
give them a chance to get out there.
Yeah, let's get reps with some of the younger guys.
How many freshmen were on that varsity roster?
Well, we combined.
I'm sure you can
by the
bring
end of
them up.
JV. Yeah,
Sure,
everybody
sure.
combined, and actually, what was JV, all getting bumped up to varsity was important because it allowed our seniors to kind of rest and recover and that kind of thing. So as we went into the harder games of really First Flight and then Lake Norman Charter. So, but yeah, don't sleep on it. I mean, we've got a really good class behind coming up. So.
And even in the regional final, Caden Bradley, John's son, and Jake Brewbreaker, contributed. They got their names in the scorebook.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Luke, Luke Jordan, certainly up there. You got guys like Eli Schwartz and just a bunch of them. Is
Caden for the next 50 years? Is Caden just going to show his ring to Nathan and be like,
"Oh, you got to tell me the story."
Oh yeah, so so Nathan came home and came to the state championship game. Him and his sister are out there in the stands cheering for Caden, and Andy, Georgia's son, also part of that 2018 class. They were in the stands, and so after the game. Actually, it was 3 of them. It was Ryan as well, and so they're all 3 of them are there, 2018s, talking to Caden, and I think it was Andy who said, "Well, Caden, you finally got something on us," or something to that extent, and Caden response was like, "I've had something on you guys." And we joke back when Caden was, I think he was 6 at the time. He was playing lacrosse in the front yard with Andy and Nathan, and of course they were in high school at the time. And Caden beat him in a game of pig shooting. And
wow.
Yeah, and Andy and Nathan they got in their truck and left. they just drove away. They were like, "Yeah, forget this," So Caden, he's just been, he holds that over their head every time he sees them. He's like, "Remember that game? Remember that game of pig?"
Well, it's only going to get worse if we get the second ring. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, Zach saw a photo on social media of some of the freshmen. He was like, "Holy smokes, are they on the varsity?"
They looked very young. We'll say that because I've got an 11-year-old myself, and it didn't seem. I mean, they looked like babies, and I'm sure that's how it. When you come in as freshmen, you're 13, 14 years old, and you.
I'll never forget Asher Denham as a freshman.
Sure, great example.
Yeah,
tiny guy,
teeny tiny. Yeah,
and they grow.
And
Dane,
Dane too.
Man.
Yeah, Dane broke his arm in a JV game against New Bern, but
wow.
We
the
joke.
good thing about kids is they get bigger and
they
grow.
They do indeed.
Yeah.
I mean, you look out there now. We were looking at some of the, like I said, we were looking at some of the pictures last night, and you saw the seniors as freshmen, and you just said, "Oh my Lord!" They are so small,
Mm-hmm. What was the game, George? You said freshman year when the other team was behind your team, and
you
saw was the heads.
Yeah, that was the first year when Nathan and Andy, 2018. When they were freshmen in our first year, when we went 4-11. By the way, we always say, "Hey, we had 4 wins our first year."
That's right. Hey,
we kind of give it more of a positive spin. So.
The thing we'll finish on is not only did lacrosse come late to Carteret County as opposed to every other sport in Carteret County, but came late state. You look at Charlotte and Raleigh and Winston-Salem and Greensboro, and those teams have been around for a while, and they've been the teams winning state titles, and you all are the first non-metro state title team in boys lacrosse. You're the first coastal. What does that mean to you?
Everything.
Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
it was, one of the more special moments at the end of that game was, the first person I turned to was John, because I was, how much work went into it over how many years, and so it was just like the culmination of that. It felt so good, and to be the first program and area to pull the trophy off.
Not just east of 95, but east of the triangle.
We said, I did a little thing with the trophy. I said, hey, I know you miss I-40, but you're going to like Highway 24. And it was the first time. I think we're the first team to pull the trophy off of I-40.
How about that?
So
yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, we joke it's like living in the movie Hoosiers, just the lacrosse version, right? There was I think it was Troy who said, "Hey George, you're gonna bring a tape measure and measure the cage," and you're like, "Yep, this is 6 by 6, just like the one back at Bogue Sound. You're gonna measure the crease. Yep, it's 9 foot radius, just like the one back home, boys."
Well, that makes it so much more special. And then also the other thing, and George, you mentioned makes it special is this team that you were playing that was going for a 4-peat.
Yeah.
And it's, kind of, David beats Goliath a little bit.
Do you believe in miracles?
Yeah.
Right.
You mentioned after the game you had to give a little Herb Brooks speech.
Herb Brooks sort of shout out.
80,
that's how it felt.
80 USA hockey team, right?
Yeah, it felt like that. It felt like that, And when they tied it at the end, I thought, oh, man, I've been here. And then, when Dane scored that's exactly what went through my head. Do you believe in miracles?
What an awesome story y'all given this spring, and congratulations. We appreciate y'all coming in.
Yeah, thank you.
So
we
much.
appreciate everything you do, by the way.
Yeah.